yet another edition of Spice and Vibes. Today, we are going to be bringing you something interesting. Thank you for your likes, thank you for your comments, and thank you for always sharing. We really appreciate you. So today, we are really going to discuss the issue of economic hardship in Nigeria. We are going to be considering the factors contributing to this. I know majorly most of us will be saying it's the government, the government is irresponsible. And I agree with you. There is no need to start arguing over that. We are going to try and suggest solutions. And then we'll also bank on you to also comment and suggest solutions so that we can contribute our own little quota, to improving Nigeria and making things better. So here with me today, I have my friend again, Sheye. Now, I want us to go straight into it. I don't know. How do we start now? Okay. Now, how did we get here? I think that I should put it out. How did we get here?
That's a billion or $1 trillion question. How did we get here? In fact, do we even know where we are? Before asking how we go, I think the question should be, where are we? But honestly speaking, it's I don't know. I'm short of words. It's actually a very precarious situation, and naturally, I would say the problem with Nigeria is like somebody having a critical, life-threatening disease, and that has defied so many doctors' prescriptions. And the very terrible thing about it, I was saying this during the preparation for the last election. Everybody has a solution. In fact, even somebody that has not been able to take care of his own personal financial life will come out and tell you, I have a solution to the problem of this country. And you will ask yourself,
someone who cannot take care of home economics, that is taking care of national economic policies.
You understand? I like that. Yeah. Thank you. So, and that's why I likened it to, God forbid, when someone is critically sick and such a disease has defied medical orthodox medicine. In fact, a tire for organizer will tell you, don't worry, I have a particular drug. In fact, nobody has ever used that drug and regretted in life. Don't mind all these doctors. Just bring him. Let's give him this thing. I think that is the situation we have found ourselves. Well, how did we get here? I'll simply put it as we got here by years of irresponsible leadership and by extension rather, irresponsible leadership and irresponsible followership. Nigeria, the way it is regrettable, but I keep saying this. Nigeria, from the beginning, was not designed to succeed. Nigeria is not it wasn't designed to actually succeed. It was, it's like somebody setting up a cheap money-making factory for themselves. But eventually, we became a country, we became this, we became that. But we got there because you can imagine the government of Gowon saying, we have money, but the problem is how to spend it. For a nation that was not having an effective transportation system, both roads, railways, and even maritime, as at that point, how many refineries was Nigeria having when Gowon make that statement? What was our industrialization agenda as at that point? I mean, in the 70s. But the most unfortunate thing, even those that succeeded these guys, in fact, it's like every time we change government, we become more clueless.
Worse. Yeah.
You understand? So there has never been that. So immediately such statements were made, it created an ideology that Nigeria is actually very rich. In fact, some of us grew up knowing Nigeria as a very rich country until we realized how poor we are. You understand? So we've never really been a serious nation. We've never
Okay.
really been a responsible people.
Okay.
You know, these days, when people say, oh, why should petrol sell for blah, 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 blah? When during the time of Lagbaja and Stamedron, this is how much they are selling petrol. And there is a question I kept asking myself. During the time of these people you are talking about, was it that that particular guy built a refinery and the successor destroyed that refinery? Because when we look at our problem with petroleum products, the last time a liter of oil was refined in Nigeria should be early 90s stroke mid 90s. Because I remember as far back as the days of Abacha, around 95, that was when importation started. And that particular period, I remember I was still in secondary school when they imported a particular type of food that was giving foul odor. And since then, we are talking of almost 30 years. Yes, 95 to this is 29 years, if I'm correct. 94, 95, yes. So we're talking of a 30 years gap. The existing refineries are non-functional. At the same time, no new one was built. Except for recently the Dangote refinery, but that one has not started producing in commercial quantity. So it is still assumed that we have none. So when you are a people given to, I don't want to sound political so that it's not like I'm siding. Okay, let me borrow the word of Mr. Obi. When you are a people given to consumption, a consumer is always at the mercy of a producer. I was having a discussion with a friend. I wanted to go into a particular business, and the guy told me, nobody run business at a loss in Nigeria. I said, why? He said, it is what you buy that you will sell, especially when you are selling. He said, if you buy it at 10,000, instead of buying it at 2,000, you too will sell it at 12,000. The consumers have no alternative than to buy from you. You understand? So there are certain things. Are we going to be talking about the kind of education people are given? Our educational system was destroyed. No, in fact, it's continuously being destroyed. Don't let me use the word. I use the word worse. That means it has started coming
it's
up.
better now, yeah.
But when it comes to educational destruction in this country, it's actually a present continuous thing. It's being destroyed. We have no foundation. In fact, we've got it so confused to the extent that that problem, that's why I use the analogy I used at first, that we are like somebody having a disease that has defied orthodox medicine. Now, it has even gotten to a point that people don't even understand some basic things again. Are we going to be talking about our security?
Now, let's just pick them one by one. Now that you have been mentioning these things, let's start from the issue of inflation, because the other time you just gave an an inference from your conversation with someone else, and the person said you can't run at a loss. Now, for example, looking at the level of inflation right now, we were talking about this earlier, and I said, I don't understand why anybody can just wake up and say, this is how much I'm going to be selling this. And that is it. There is no regulation. There is no moderation. There is no rationing. There is nothing, no system whatsoever put in place to make sure that things are done in an orderly manner. So now let's speak from this issue of inflation now. Anytime they say the dollar rises against the naira, people begin to, even someone who is selling farm produce immediately jacks up his price. Someone who is selling something that even does not have anything to do with the rise in dollar or fuel scarcity or whatever. You understand? Immediately. And even the rate at which that inflation takes place is just almost instantaneous. There is no like, okay, what I'm selling on ground now, maybe by the time I finish my stock, okay, when I'm buying something new, if I buy it at a higher price, then I can increase my price. There is nothing like that. Immediately, everything changes. We have now realized that over the years, there's nothing that goes up like that ever comes down, even when the situation is better. So, what do you have to say to this actually?
Well, talking about that, I think I may sound rather unconventional. And my first response to that question, sir, is the fact that we're a very, very wicked set of people. I think we need to start telling ourselves that
That's
truth.
just the truth. Yeah, you're right.
From my little knowledge of economics, we have normal inflation, we have hyperinflation, and we have
Mm,
galloping inflation. I think
mm,
what we have in Nigeria is more of galloping inflation.
mm,
You begin to ask yourself, okay, let's even assume everything is resting on dollars, which is another very key aspect of our responsibility.
mm,
Because even if you talk about, it is easier, it is very, very easy for us to blame government
mm.
about all this. But the truth of the matter is, we as Nigerians, over the years, we have seen buying and keeping dollars as a means of storage of value of assets.
Mm.
In fact, the funny thing is, in most of our so-called financial seminars, we encourage people to buy dollars. I have a certain what do you call it? I have a certain activist. Let me mention his name, the Jade Yanju.
Mm.
Nice gentleman, and can be very honest.
That's what you call him.
Eh?
I
He
said
can
that's
be
what you call
honest.
him. Yeah.
Yes, but the truth of the matter is, there is one thing I have never really agreed with DG about. Anytime he sense that something may happen around forex, DG will be shouting, keep your dollars, buy dollars, and keep it. Don't let them deceive you. Don't sell it. Just keep it. Don't say I did not help you. We are actually expecting government to fix these stuff. Fine. But the truth of the matter is, these things respond on a normal, in a normal society. These things actually respond to the forces of demand and supply. Though, yeah, we now have issues with speculators and some cabals. Let me use the word cabals. We sit around. Once the demand start coming up, people sit around, they buy this thing and keep.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
At a particular point, I was guilty of the same offense. So when you buy dollars, for example, at 500 naira, for the purpose of keeping it as a storage value,
Yeah.
let me throw the question back to you. What would be your prayer points?
Of course that the dollar value should rise, of course.
So that when I want to sell, I sell at.
You can say higher, yeah.
So even while a lot of people were shouting on social media that, hey, government is useless, it's now 1.9, oh, deep down in their mind, they were actually happy that if I'm going to sell, I'm going to sell very high.
Mm.
And can we be doing that and we are saying we are patriotic?
Mm.
One of the problems with us is an average Nigerian is not actually that patriotic. We must
That's
tell
it.
us.
In fact, as you were saying it, that's the next thing I wanted to go into because most of us we don't have this patriotic spirit to say, okay, how can we build the country together? All we want to do is what is in there for me, for me. We are all only thinking about ourselves. We are not thinking in an holistic manner to say, okay, what are we going to gain? It's not what are we going to gain, it's what am I going to gain? And that speaks for why, sorry to cut in, that
No,
speaks for why when it comes to the level of development and why things are going wrong, is because some people, once that particular government is benefiting them, they can never talk bad about the government. No matter what happens to the rest of the country, they don't care. And that is what these politicians are actually leveraging on. They are taking advantage of that to say, okay, if I punish, 100 million people, or even out of the 200 million, population of Nigeria, more than 200 million, if I punish 200 million people, I deprive them of their basic amenities, of their dividends of democracy. If I can just find 100,000 people to just give some things to, they're going to speak good of me. And that's what is happening when they say the federal government wants to give out money to 2 million people. And people begin to castigate, people begin to grumble, people begin to complain, people begin to criticize, to say 2 million out of 200 million. But the government know what they are doing. What they are doing is, if we can reach out to this 200 million, since this government is benefiting me and my family, then every other person can go, can die, so to speak. So I agree with you, seriously.
yes, nation building has never really been individualistic. You can't have an individualistic bunch of people and you are talking about nation building,
Mm.
because these individualistic tendencies brings about greed, oppression. Don't get me wrong, I'm not exonerating the politicians. You understand?
Yeah.
But even the politicians, they did not fall down from heaven.
They came from among us now.
They came from among us. And in fact, somebody said something that the number of people that are waiting on the flank to steal in Nigeria are far much more than the
Those
people
who
that are
was
stealing at the moment. The reason why so many of us are very honest is because we've not had the opportunity to steal.
You're very
I'll,
right.
I'll give an example. I used to have a much senior friend. I remember 2011 to around 2015. We were together in the political activism. In fact, they have a program they run on radio where they criticize government policies, at times with profile solution. On a number of times, I followed them down to the radio station. I've even spoken on a number of times
Mm.
with them on the radio. Immediately after 2015 election, this senior friend of mine was given an appointment,
To
a
shut
federal,
him up.
a federal government appointment to be
Mm.
precise.
Mm.
He was given the state director of Empower.
Mm.
Very upright, very vocal, very vibrant, English speaking activist. He's also a lawyer. Forget, I could not recognize this guy after 3 months. Everything we stood for, we were shouting on TV for, and every other thing vanished. You understand?
That's
So
it.
we are that kind of people.